All right, hopefully the next person, you like them a little bit more when you say it again. Look at somebody else, say Happy Thanksgiving. Man, I am excited because Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and this is my time of the year where I get to try a whole lot of foods that I don't try throughout the year because it's weird. Listen, if you cook turkey any other time other than Thanksgiving, you need to see a therapist. Amen? Thanksgiving is for turkey, and turkey is for Thanksgiving. You don't mix the two, okay? You don't mix candy yams. You don't mix certain foods are meant for Thanksgiving, and that's when you cook them. And turkey's one of them. But I'm super excited because I'm gonna be able to spend some time with my family. I'm taking time away. I've had an insanely crazy schedule over the past few months, but I finally get to take a breather and just go for a minute, and I'm excited about it. If you missed it, this past weekend we had our first North Married Couples date night, and it went really, really well. I know some of the people that went, they're not here, but if you went, we had a blast, and if you didn't go, hopefully you can go next time. And it went so well that we're going to plan just an adult date night out. And it's not just going to be for married couples. It's going to be for any and everybody that wants to go. And then we're going to start our college life classes. We're going to do something with our college life kids. So we're trying to get it to where we're able to pour into anybody and everybody that walks into this building. But speaking of date night, regardless of what anybody says, I'm the reason that we got out of that room, okay? We did an escape room. And before we got there, I said, they're going to tell us we only got 3 clues. But if you become friends with the people, they'll give you more. First thing I did was I walked there and said, hey, man, how you doing? We talked and laughed. I said, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and give me 6 clues? And the first thing he said was, I got you, bro. See, I got this. So if you want to get out of the escape room, go with me. But we had an amazing, amazing time. But right before Thanksgiving, normally we would do an entire series on Thanksgiving. But this year, I wanted to sort of kind of switch it up just a little bit because I knew that we were going to be doing baptisms and things like that. And I wanted to talk about family matters. And the reason why I wanted to talk about family matters is because our date night, it taught me something, is that we are truly family. And it blessed my heart to realize that we are truly family. After we got out of the escape room, thanks to me, I'm not going to say it anymore, I promise. But after we got out of the escape room, one more time, thanks to me. After we got out of the escape room, we actually sat in the parking lot and we just laughed and we talked. And as much as I yawned, and I was like, okay, this conversation got to end soon because I'm going to fall asleep in this parking lot. We had a blast. We were talking one thing, and y'all may see it one Sunday, as I was talking about how I'm going to get a weave, and I'm going to have dreads like my man Corey one Sunday. When it happens, just let it happen. Let me live my best life for a day. But we sat up there and we talked, and when I came in this morning, I looked around and I noticed how everyone was interacting, and as I walked in here and I heard everybody singing and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, we are truly family. But the thing that I want us to come to this place in our mind to realize is that why are we family? And a church family, but even outside of that, why do we need family? And I want to talk about it, but I started looking up the definition of family. And I wanted to look up the English definition, not the Greek or anything like that. And I was sort of disappointed because here's the definition of family. Now, this comes from like the Webster Dictionary, but it says this: the basic unit in society traditionally consisting of 2 parents rearing their children. I'm going to read that again. The basic unit in society traditionally consisting of 2 parents rearing their children. And I read that and I was sort of disappointed. And the reason why is because the definition of family has become a lot more broader than what our brains try to process. It's become a lot different than this is my family because we have the same bloodline. And I know some people that do that, and I know some people, their mindset is that way. And they'll say, well, that's not my family because they're not part of my bloodline. But the reality is, as you go through life, your family grows. And it doesn't grow because Aunt Susie had another kid, but it grows because you have forged a friendship or a bond with somebody around you. And you come to this place in your life where you realize we need each other. There's an old African tribe or old African proverb that goes this way. It says, it takes a village to raise a what? Okay, let's try that again. It takes a village to raise a what? In other words, we all need each other. But we always stop there. Here's the other part of that African proverb. You ready? It says, the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down and feel its warmth. Man, I read that. I was like, that's some strong words. I wish I would have known that when I was little. I would look at my mom and be like, you want me to burn this place down? That's what you want me to do? But I read that and I was like, the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down and feel its warmth. And it brought me to this place in my life where I realized many people leave the church and many people leave like their quote unquote family within the church because they don't find the warmth there. And unfortunately, what happens is, and I'm not saying we do this here at North, but what happens is that when you're out there wilding out, then the people who you call family within the church, they want to pay you attention because then you become a project and not family. And I don't ever want us to get to that place. So when I sat there and I was reading this whole thing, I said, how can we make sure that we never get to that place? And how can we embrace people that decide to come to our table and dine with us? But let's be real. Sometimes family gets on your nerves, amen. Y'all, that's the loudest amen I've heard all morning. Some of y'all need to work some things out this Thanksgiving. But the thing is that as I was sitting back in the back room thinking, memories began to pop up. And as the memories began to pop up on my phone, one of the memories popped up of my son being born. And I started the memory was actually Lamont holding my son when he was born in the hospital. And he was standing up against a white wall with my light-skinned son, so he looked like a big old shadow from Photoshop. He was waiting for it. I wasn't even going to say nothing, but he was like, oh, here it comes. So I had to give it to him. But so I was looking at this photo, but it was cool because Lamont is not my father, regardless of what you think. He's not my dad, okay? But if you look at the photo, it's almost like, and I'm sure he had this feeling like his brother had just given birth to his first nephew. And it was a great moment. It was one of those pictures where you had this aha moment and you're like, that person's really family. It's like when I go on vacation with Quentin and Brittany and other pictures popped up, there's this moment in time where Quentin and we played this game and you had to put on this belt. And like every time you answer the question wrong, the belt pulls you closer. And it's like a heart. And then you try to answer the questions right because you want to use the key to unlock each other. I wanted to make this game as awkward as I possibly could. Me and Quentin, our belly buttons were talking to one another by the time this game was over with. But I was looking at this game and I'm looking at this photo. I'm like, that's family. That's family. And I was thinking about this past Saturday night and I was like, we're just sitting around eating oysters and laughing and talking, and that's family. Like I said, sometimes family gets on your nerves. But it's weird because when I read the Bible tells me this. This is what it says in Psalms 133:1. It says this. It is truly wonderful when the people of God live together in peace. But the reality is this, is that sometimes within our family, there's not peace. Sometimes within our family, we don't want to see Uncle Bill. Sometimes within our family, we don't want to see Aunt Susie. Sometimes within our family, we want to reach back and slap Cousin Bill or whatever his name is. I don't know why there's two Bills. Maybe they're both from the same bloodline or something like that. But in our family, we have those people that bring out the worst in us. This morning, it was funny, and I wasn't even planning on using this morning, but Brittany made it perfect. But I was sitting back in my office, and I was sitting there, and I was just like, man, today is a good day. Ain't nothing stressing me out. As soon as I said that, Wolfgang spills an entire cup of coffee right outside my office door. And then it hits Quentin in the face. It hits my daughter in the back. And then Brittany walks in. I was like, look, right when I thank God for a good day, the devil shows up. And the reality is that for some of you and your family, it's just like that. You're like all happy and you're having a good day, and then all of a sudden, something within your day throws you completely off track. Or maybe your family bloodline is just going great, and something comes in and it throws you off track, going back to church. Maybe church is going good, but then all of a sudden something happens or something is observed or something is said, and instead of going to that person like Matthew 18 tells us, it just throws us off track. And we forget what 1 John 4:20 says when it says this, when it says, John is speaking and he says, but if we say we love God and do not love each other, we are liars. That's a strong word. We cannot see God. So how can we love God if we don't love the people we can see? And I know some of y'all super religious people like, but I love Jesus. I see him every day when the wind blows. Stop it. Stop. That's called weather, okay? The wind, it shifts and it comes down and it blows. Stop. Because the reality is this, is that so many times in our life, We don't love our brother, or we don't love our sister, or maybe we're just upset with them because they've done something to offend us, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. But here's the crazy thing that we forget, and here's what I think. I think John wrote this in the scripture because he wanted us to realize that when God blows that trumpet and he comes down to take back his church, his bride, we're going to all be sitting at the same table whether we want to or not. So why don't we fix our family dynamic now? So this morning I wanted to talk about family matters because the reality is this, is that family matters. But how do you get along with your family? Have you ever stopped and read about the disciples and their personalities? Let's go through it. 12 disciples. Andrew was considered open-minded. Bartholomew was considered composed. And James, he was a fanatical. I could definitely see that. Second James, which was the son of like some dude whose name is hard to pronounce that begins with A, he was quiet, and that's why you don't really see much about him. John was very passionate, and he was an evangelist, so when he preached the gospel, he preached with passion. Judas, we all know him. He was a traitor. Matthew was very humble. Jude was extremely intense. Peter was impulsive, but I like it. That's when he cut the ear off. I'm like, yeah, do that thing, bro. Philip was inquisitive. Simon the Zealot, he was strong-willed. And Thomas, he was a pessimist. But here's the crazy thing. Even with all these different personalities, coming from different walks of life, who all viewed life in different view and glasses, or however you want to put it, they were still able to walk with Christ together. And here's why. Because they were not focused on the flaws of each other, but they were focused on the fact that they were sitting under the favor of Christ. Imagine if we stopped focusing on where the other person messed up, and we start thanking God for allowing us to walk and sit under his grace, his mercy, and his favor. Look at somebody and say, welcome to the table as we dive into this thing. All right, look at somebody else, say, welcome to the table. Let's pray real quick. Father God, as we dive into the scripture, I pray that our minds are clear, that our ears are open, that our hearts are ready for you to speak and shape and mold them this morning. I pray that as we go through these scriptures, God, that our lives and our words and our actions will shout from the rooftop, welcome to the table. Your precious name and all God's children said, amen. We're going to study John chapter 13. This is right before Christ was actually about to take his last breath on the cross, when he was going to finish his earthly ministry and fulfill the promise that he actually came down to fulfill. And this is right before the Last Supper. In John chapter 13, we see where Christ washes the feet of his disciples. In verse 1, it starts off this way. It says, it was before Passover, and Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and return to the Father. He had always loved his followers in this world, and he loved them to the very end. But verse 2, it says, even before the evening meal started, the devil had made Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, I hate saying that name, decide to betray Jesus. Now, here's the thing. How many of y'all got that person in your family that you just don't trust? Whoa, she raised her hand. It's Quentin, isn't it? I knew it. Yeah, I knew it. But we all have that person in our family that we don't trust. And for some of us, that person may not be the obvious. See, I've got this uncle in my family. His name is Uncle Michael. And I've talked about him occasionally. He just got out of a 23-year stint in prison. Now, if you would stop and think about it, you'd be like, that's the person he don't trust. No, I trust my Uncle Michael. I love my Uncle Michael. My Uncle Michael is one of my most favorite people. I remember when my Uncle Michael got out of jail, we were out of prison. It wasn't jail. But we were hanging out together. I was like, let's go get something to eat. And then this is right when I picked him up, and we went to this place. We went to the Marietta Diner. If you've never been to the Marietta Diner, if you plan on going to the Marietta Diner, make sure you take out a small loan before you get there, okay? It's not cheap. So we get there, my uncle said, I'm going to pay for it. I was like, Unc, I got you. You just got out. I got you. And then all of a sudden, when we get there, he looks at the price. He's like, you still want to take care of it? I was like, yeah, things have changed since you got out of the big house, right? But my Uncle Michael is one of those people, he's a very honest person. He will tell you like it is. He always speaks his mind. I have an Aunt Janice. My Aunt Janice, I love my Aunt Janice. She is one of my most favorite people. She's one of the realest people, but she was also in the military for many years. And she still has that drill sergeant mentality. But I know that if I ever need to, call on the squad, she right there with me. That's my Janice. So I know you're thinking, Vince, who don't you trust in your family? Who don't I trust? I'm be honest. And I love her, but I don't trust Aviana. Here's why. Here's why. I love Aviana, and Aviana loves her daddy. But if Aviana had to pick between, if y'all ever seen that movie, The Good Son? If you haven't, I'm not endorsing the movie, okay? But there's a part in the movie where the mom has to decide which hand that they're going to let go. And she has to pick which son she's going to save. And I tell you what, if Aviana had to pick between me and her mom, she wouldn't even think about it. They'll be like, do you pick mom or, and she'd be like, mom, and just let my hand go. That's why I don't trust. Here's another reason why I know she would pick her mom. If we walk through the front door, Aviana would be like, Mommy! And she'll go running downstairs. If I walk in after her, she'll be like, oh, hey, Dad. That's the response I get. Last night we were hanging out. My wife left to go to the store, didn't take her with her. We're sitting there, we're vibing, we're talking, we having a good time. She looked at me and said, Dad, is that Mom? And I was like, yeah. Didn't take 2 seconds and ran down the stairs to say hi to Mom. And I was like, this is why I don't trust her. I don't trust her because she loves her mom way more than me, even though I'm way cooler than her mom. We're not having a debate about it this morning. So we all have that person within our family, and maybe within your family you got that person, but here's the reality. You ready? In every church in America today, there are people that are sitting in pews with people, and they look and they say, I don't trust that person. For some of y'all, it's your spouse. I hope not. For some of y'all, it's your children. We in the same boat. For some of y'all, it's somebody that hurt you a long time ago and you still have not let it go. For some of y'all, it's so petty as to the fact where you're like, they sat in my seat last Sunday, and here at North, we don't have assigned seating. If you don't get a seat, then you just don't get a seat. But we do have seats available, but we don't have assigned seating. For some of you, you don't trust Jessica because maybe Jessica gave away the last apple fritter, and that was supposed to be your apple fritter. See? We all have somebody in whom we do not trust. Somebody, when they come around, we clutch onto our emotions and we clutch onto our defense wall just a little bit tighter. Those people that we say, I know when they come around, some chaos is about to ensue. AKA Wolfgang. That's just the way it is sometimes. That's the way it is. And as Christ was sitting down with the disciples, all of a sudden the devil comes in and he talks to Judas, and he had already spoken to his heart, and Judas was about to betray Jesus. This is where that scripture that says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities of darkness. Can I tell you something? That when you fight with your brother and sister in church, or when you fight with your physical family, this is what you're doing. You're allowing the devil to win. Because 1 John tells me this. He says, how can I say I love God when I can't even love the person that I can actually see? And I know what you're saying, but Vince, my family hurt me. Vince, you don't understand. Vince, you don't get it. When my father was dying, I had to sit in his hospital room, and my dad was so much in arrears in child support. I had seen some things. My dad had done some things. My dad had said some things, not to me personally, but to those around me. I had such a traumatic mindset when I got married, because I said, I don't want to be this person. And here I was at my dad's final days, and I had to sit in his hospital room, and I still had to pour the love of Jesus into him. I am not telling you to just take abuse from your family. I'm not telling you to take abuse from people within church. Here's what I'm telling you, is to love them with the love of Christ. My job is not to change people. My job is to lead them to the person that can change them. But if I tell a person that I hate them and that they're worthless, then who am I to say that I love Jesus? See, here's the thing. When you sit at the table and you say, God, you prepare a place for me, you got to realize that the table that you're sitting at is not your table to invite or uninvite anyone. It took me a long time to get to this place. But once I sat down and I read John chapter 13, and I began to see how Christ began to sit with those, even though Judas was going to betray him and Peter was going to deny him, he still sat with him. But as I read John chapter 13, and I began to see how Christ humbled himself and brought himself from way up here in a physical, in a spiritual sense, to down here to say, I am God, but I love you, and I love you beyond your faults. And I had to stop and say, Vince, who are you to love somebody less because they have the same faults or different faults than what you have, but we all have faults? And this is exactly what's happened in John chapter 13. And as you read the story, you begin to see that Christ, he begins to talk. And Jesus knew he had come from God who would go back to God. He also knew that the Father had given him complete power. In verse 4 it says, so during the meal, Jesus got up, he removed his outer garment and wrapped a towel around his waist. He put some water in a large bowl. Then he began washing his disciples' feet and drying them with the towel he was wearing. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine sitting at a table with everybody? Number one, that's nasty and unsanitary. But can you imagine you're sitting at the table and you can tell what everybody's about to do? You can tell that this person is going to deny you, this person is going to betray you, this person is going to say this person is going to do that. And then all of a sudden your father says, you know what? I want you to do something that you probably, if you were a mere human, you would not want to do, but you're greater than a mere human because you are a sacrifice. He says, I want you to wash their feet. I want you to humble yourself and wash their feet. Now, here's the thing about washing feet, because we're like, oh, he washed their feet. No, it's way bigger than that, because what he washed was all the stuff that they had carried with them over their journey of sharing the gospel. And here he was, he's like, but you preached about my father, Judas, and now you're about to turn me over to be nailed up to a cross. And he's like, but you preached about my father, Peter, and here you are about to deny me. And for some of us, we look at the people who are in our church family that are sitting at the table with us, and we're like, how can they say that they love Jesus? But the reality is, if you stop and read 1 John chapter 4, then you realize, how can you say that you love Jesus? If you say you want to be like Christ, then you got to be ready to truly be like Christ. And sometimes Christ will call you to wash the feet of those that you just don't want to wash their feet. And I can only imagine how they felt as Christ stood up. He began to take off his robe. I'll be like, what you doing, Jesus? What's happening, Jesus? What's going on, Jesus? Why are you doing this, Jesus? What is happening? Hold on, I thought we were having some bread and some wine. What is going on? But he stood up and he began to remove his outer garments, and he begins washing their feet. But here's what happens with Peter. It says, but when he came to Simon Peter, this disciple asked, he said, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? And this is what Jesus said, you don't really know what I am doing, but later you will understand. And Peter says, you will not wash my feet. And then Jesus says, but if I don't wash you, you don't really belong to me. And this is what Peter says, because he still didn't get it. And he says, Lord, don't wash my feet. Don't wash just my feet. Wash my hands and my head. Basically, Jesus, give me a sponge bath. But this is what Jesus said. You ready? People who have bathed and are clean all over need to wash just their feet. And you, my disciples, are clean except for one of you. And Jesus knew who would betray him. This is why he said, except for one of you. See, some of us, we get upset because, we walk into church and then all of a sudden they look at us sideways. And sometimes we get upset because somebody next to us, they singing too loud and they're not singing on key. Sometimes we get upset because, people walk into this church and they don't look like us, act like us, smell like us, talk like us. Sometimes we get upset because somebody walks into this church that you had beef with a long time ago. And then you want to stand in here, you want to raise your hand and say, God, you're so good. But the reality is that if God is good, then I want to be those things that are good. I want to be like Jesus. So if I'm to be like Jesus, guess what? I'm supposed to love them in spite of. Here's my question this Thanksgiving season. Are you able to truly call your brother and sister family, even when they're the Judas in your life? That's hard to comprehend. That's hard to grasp. That's a hard pill to swallow. It's like eating somebody's dry turkey on Thanksgiving. And we sit there, we're like, I know I can forgive them. I know I can love them through it. I know that I can be there for them. I know that I can, but I just need some time. I know that I love them. I know that I forgive them. I know that I can move past this. I know that I can let God use me in their lives, but I just need some time. I know that I can. I know that I can. I know that I can, but I just need some time. And if you were to equate that to like a Thanksgiving meal, it's like when you take that dry turkey and you put gravy all over it. The reality is guess what? The gravy is still, the turkey is still dry up under all the gravy. Here's the reality. Just because you sprinkle a little bit of Jesus on your hate, guess what? You still got hate in your heart. And it's taken up a place that Christ is supposed to be filling. But I want to give you an illustration this morning. I want to show you something. Quentin, let me get that painter's chart. So let me show you this. Because sometimes, come here, Quentin, help me out with this real quick. Because sometimes what happens in life is this, is that we don't realize the impact that we play on people's lives. We don't realize how God is using us in people's lives. And see, when people walk into our lives, or when God brings them into our lives, or when people walk into North Church, or God brings them into North Church, we don't know the journey that they've faced. And this is one of the reasons that we do our series entitled Storytellers. Because I want us all to be able to see, you go ahead and just set that down. I want us all to be able to see the stories and the backgrounds and the things that God has brought us through. Because, see, it's easy for us to say, man, you know what? They got some dirt in their life. They got some stuff. You see, I know their parents and I know their livelihood and I know what they've been through. They've been through some stuff, and you know, it's coming out of both ends. All right. They've been through some stuff, and you see, we're like, yeah, their dad was an alcoholic, their mom was a drug addict, this, that, and the third. But see, sometimes in life, people, they wear a good face. They know how to smile through all the nonsense and the chaos. So the things that we think are sweet in their life is actually not sweet. It's actually pretty rough, and it's actually pretty rancid and pretty nasty. And see, for some of us, it may not be some childhood stuff or some family stuff. Some people may have walked into this building this morning after going through some chaos in their life. But see, maybe for some of them, it is some childhood stuff. Maybe it's some stuff that they went through when they were kids, their family put them through. Maybe it was a broken heart from when they were younger. Maybe they are unveiling some stuff in their lives, some crap that they've been through, some stuff that they've been through. But see, some of us, we come in here, and it's obvious we're going through some things. I was going to use rocks, but I don't think the insurance would like me doing that. See, we got some things in our lives that cause us some heartache and some pain. We got some trauma in our lives that we wear. Some things that have caused us a lot of hurt, and it hurts future relationships and friendships and things like that. And see, for some of us, we fit in one of these categories. For some of us, we've been through all of it. For some of us, man, we got the dirt because, yeah, my family was rough. For some of us, man, as we got older, we started getting into some stuff that maybe we shouldn't have got into. And for some of us, we were in some relationships that we maybe shouldn't have got into. And now everybody sees all the mess. But see, the reality is for some of us, we walk into a building and maybe we got some things that we've been through. I did this show one time, and there was this young girl who came to the show, and I'll never forget. She had this mark on her neck, and I remember just looking at this mark on her neck, and I was like, man, this girl has been through some things. I think she's abused at home. And she began to tell me her story. And it wasn't that she was abused at home. It was that she tried to take her own life. This was like a rope burn around her neck. And she said that she didn't want to come to the event that night because she said, I don't want everybody staring at the rope burn on my neck. And I remember that night like it was just the other day. And I began to sit in the corner, and we were just conversing with one another. And if you ever go to our shows, I don't run my merch table. And the reason why I don't run my merch table is because I don't believe God has sent me there to sell T-shirts, but he sent me there to tell people about his love, his grace, and his mercy. So I have a whole team of people that they sit there and they sell shirts. And if you catch my wife, she'll just give you a shirt. But I have a team that takes care of that. And I was able to talk to her, and she began to tell me this story. And I said, so what happened? And I'm expecting some story about, her dad did this, or her mom did this, or some uncle did this. And she began to tell me how it was just bullying, how people would bully her in school. And it sort of kind of hit me because, believe it or not, back in school, I was a bully for some period of time. Lamont, don't say nothing. But I was a bully for a period of time. And I was able to talk to her, and this is what I said to her. I said, listen, can I tell you something? I'm sorry. And she said, you didn't do it. I said, I was a bully. I was that person before. And I began to explain to her that the reason why I was a bully is because I went to private schools my whole life. And as I went through these private schools, I remember seeing all these kids going to daddy with donuts or donuts with dad. And I had no dad. So I had to eat with the principal, Mr. Peterson. Although he's a dope guy, I still wish that my dad was there. And I remember going to basketball games. And my dad showed up to a few, but unfortunately he was inebriated in some of these basketball games. And I remember that time that my dad sent me down to the store and I got jumped, or I remember that time that my friends turned their back on me. And then as I got older, I remember as an adult when I became pastor at North Church, and it was like the devil came after my family, one dart after another. And I'll never forget that I called my spiritual father, Pastor Hammontree. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And this is what he said to me. Son, you're not, but God is. And it took that moment for me to realize that no matter how dirty my feet get, no matter how messy my life is, God has still got me. Why is it important for us to invite people to our table and show them the love of Jesus? Because, listen, the reality is that your voice, your reassurance may be the only confirmation and affirmation that somebody may receive that lets them know that God still loves them. I want to use somebody this morning. Let me see. It's making me very uncomfortable. Let me see. Bub, come here. You come here, buddy. Come here. All right, buddy. I need you to take your shoes and socks off real quick. Take your shoes and socks off. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Quick, man. Quick, you're making this awkward. Hurry up. Quickly. Cool, come here, come here, come here. All right, so what I want you to do first is you're going to start right down there. You're going to walk all the way down. You ready? Go ahead. Start down there. So see, remember. Ain't worried about your pants. Need some help, Huckleberry fan? Let me help you out. Yeah. Go ahead. You got this. All right, go ahead. Take your time. Whoa, don't slip and slide. All right, go ahead, walk back. Don't walk off that tarp. Don't walk off that tarp. Woo. Walk back for me, walk back for me. Go ahead. Okay. Walk back again for me. Walk back this way for me. Okay, good. Don't slip and slide. No slip and slide. Walk back for me. Walk back for me. Walk back for me. Okay, cool. All right, stay right there for me. All right, here, sit on this chair right there for me. See, the thing is that had you not seen that, and had you not watched him walk through all that mess, you would never know that his life looked like this. That's nasty. See, here's the thing. Sometimes people walk into this church and they look like Huckleberry Finn, like they got it all together. But if you stop and you dig a little bit deeper, you'll see that they got some mess in their life. I know the story of a lot of people within this church. I know your life from years ago. I know your life for today, from months ago, weeks ago, for some of y'all hours ago. And I know that even this morning, some of you guys walked into this building and your life looked just like this. And I know that for some of y'all that's watching online, you're not here this morning for whatever reason, but for some of you, your life looks like that. I know that for some of you, you didn't even want to be here this morning because your life felt like that. I know that for some of you, you don't want to be here this morning because when you feel like when people look at you, all they see is the dirt and you don't want to have anything to do with it. But can I tell you something? That when Christ comes into your life, he does something special. See, watch. Can you imagine all the mess and the nonsense that they had, those disciples had on their feet? Can you imagine all the disgustingness that those disciples had on their feet when they made it to Jesus and they sat down to have a meal with him? And here's Jesus and he humbles himself. This is my son, I'm his dad. I haven't given him a bath in a long time because it would be weird. But imagine if you're walking with your father and you cut yourself and then your dad's like, man, I got you. And see, I could take his foot and I could put it in here and wring it around like it's a washing machine, but I don't think Jesus did that. I feel like Jesus probably took that water and he patiently and he calmly washed the disciples' feet. See, here's the crazy thing. Nowhere in the Bible did it say that he chastised them for how dirty their feet were. Nowhere in the Bible did he say, okay, all right, you're done. Next. Here's the thing. I'm crazy enough to believe that Christ took his time. and that he made sure that every portion of their feet was clean. And here's the other part. I don't think that Christ left their feet wet. I think that he took time and he said, I'm going to dry your feet off because here's the thing. I'm doing a new thing. And I don't think that when Christ forgives us, he leaves remembrance. He's not like, you know what, you remember that time I forgave you? Like yesterday at 3:45 in the afternoon when you did that thing? And he takes his time. And I'm sure that he finished off one foot and he was like, let me just make sure. And he made sure he got the water from everywhere. Let me see that other foot, bub. And I'm sure he didn't stop because the Bible tells us that when Christ does something, he makes us whole, right? So I'm sure that he said, you know what? I got you. And here's the thing about your life, is that Christ invited you to his table. And I'm sure that he didn't say, you know what? I'm just going to leave you dirty. Okay, we'll leave that little bit of dirt. No, he made you whole. He said, is that better? Is that good? You like that other foot that's pretty clean? Pretty clean? Yeah. We're going to make this one just as clean. And I'm sure that he took his time and he made sure that all the hurt that you had been through and all the pain that you had been through, that there was no residue of it. The reality is that we've seen the dirt. Yeah, we've been through it. We know that it was there. But he took his time and he made you whole. And once he was done, I'm sure that he didn't just throw them off to the side and say, go. But I'm crazy enough to believe that he let them know how much he loved them. See, here's the thing. Get up, bub. So many times in our life, we pray to be like Jesus. But the problem is this. We want to be like Jesus, but we're not willing to get dirty like Jesus. We're willing to say, I want to be like Jesus, but that's only if my table looks the way I want it to look. It's only if my friend circle looks the way that I want it to look. Me and Lamont, we've been friends for 15 years, 20 years. And all it took was one experience to have us almost throwing blows in a Chinese restaurant. Y'all thought I was going to say something insightful there, didn't you? I'll never forget, we had built a server together, and I said, Lamont, we got to get this thing done. We had been working on the server for 6-7 weeks, and this guy had a bunch of illegal stuff on the server that we were trying to rectify because our name was on it, and I was like, I ain't going to jail for you. I don't like you that much, but we're trying to get this thing right. And I told Lamont, I said, hey, we've got to get this server fixed before we can get paid. And he said, no, I want to get paid. I've been here working all day. I said, I don't care if you've been here working all day. I said, you're not getting paid. And we went from, this is how you know your family. We went from arguing in that server room to saying, man, we got to go to Bible study. We got up, arguing all the way to the car. Got in the car, headed to Bible study, arguing on the way to Bible study. We got to the Bible study spot, which was the Chinese restaurant. And he said, man, I'm getting my money. I was like, it's right here in this pocket. If you can get it, you can have it. So we walk into the place where we're having Bible study, and we're paying for our meal. And I was like, bro, you got this? You want me to get it? He was like, all right, you get it. And we're still arguing about this money. I'm still not paying you that money. And he was like, you see that window? I'll throw you through that window. I was like, try it. The little girl at the Chinese restaurant didn't realize that this is my brother that I'm arguing with. Her eyes were like this. And I was like, man, try it. Go ahead. But then we sat at the table. We prayed together. We ate together. We laughed together. We walked back out to the car. Guess what? We're still arguing. Because we're family. See, here's the thing. Yeah, I argued with Lamont that day. But see, when my dad passed away, Lamont was right there. When my brother passed away, Lamont was right there. When his dad passed away, guess what? I was right there. I was right there because Lamont's very vocal about his divorce. I was there the day he found out that his wife was leaving him. You remember that? We were at a football game and his wife sent him a text, and I was right there. I didn't hold his hand like he did when my brother passed away because that's weird, but I was there for him. I was right there at his wedding when he decided to get married again, but I was also there when he told me, I am 50 years old and I'm about to have a baby. I was there to laugh at him. I was right there in that very moment. Hey, listen, he was there when my daughter came to me and told me she could not walk. And I found out that my daughter may have multiple sclerosis, and it took everything inside of me not to just give up on everything that life had to offer. He was right there. See, here's the thing about family. A lot of times we think about families there when things are going good. No, here's the thing about family. Family's there. Period. Family's there. It doesn't mean that every time you call, I'm going to pick up my phone, because here's the thing. When I'm down at our vacation with my family, guess what? I probably won't pick up the phone. I will send you a text message saying, call Quentin. I probably won't pick up my phone. Here's the thing. If you were to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a very big chance that I will pick up my phone and I will talk to you about what you're going through. Why? Not because I'm the pastor of the church, because the reality is this, is that pastors have hours just like everybody else. I'll pick up my phone because you're family. Some of y'all made me mad before. Yeah. Quentin knows. My wife knows. The Lord knows. But at the end of the day, we're family. My hope and my prayer for North Church is this, is that regardless of whoever walks into these doors, that we don't just call them family, but we actually treat them as though they're family. Why? Because Proverbs 17:17, it puts it this way. It says, a friend is there to help in any situation. But I love this next line. It says, and relatives are born to share our what? Troubles. Notice how I didn't say all of our good times, our victories, our this, our that. My family's there to wipe away the tears, the sweat, the blood, all of that good stuff. But they're also there to raise their hands up in victory with me. Here's the other scripture, John 15:12-13, where it says this. It says, now I tell you to love each other as I have loved you. The greatest way to show love for friends is to die for them. Listen to me. Here's the reality. As the worship team makes their way up here, here's the reality. This Thanksgiving season, Thanksgiving holiday, this Thanksgiving moment, this Thanksgiving dinner, you're going to be sitting around people that some of y'all may have not seen in a very long time. You're going to be sitting around people, and you're going to look some of those people in the face and they've hurt you. You're going to be sitting around people and you're going to love some of these people. But the reality is, for some of y'all going to hate some of these people. But here's the thing. My hope and my prayer is that you will find a place in your heart and in your mind and in your spirit to say, I forgive you. Now let's remove your actual biological family. Listen to me, North Church. Next year, I'm going to challenge us to do something great. I haven't talked to Quentin about it. I haven't talked to Ricky about it. I haven't talked to my wife about it. I have not talked to the vision team about it. The only person I've talked to about it is Jesus and him alone. But this upcoming season in 2024, I'm going to challenge us to do something amazing. And it's not going to be to grow the church. It's going to be to grow the kingdom of God. Are we okay with that? Come on, are we okay with that? But here's the thing. In order for us to accomplish this, we have to remember that we're family. And as the last slide says, family matters. North Church, the reason why we're talking about family matters today is because family matters. North Church, as we go into this holiday season, my hope and my prayer is this, is that you realize that we're family, that family matters. And guess what? We're not going to always do it right. We're not going to always say it right. Our actions are not going to always be perfect. You may figure out who the Judas is in your life, and you may figure out who the Peter is in your life. I hope and my prayer is this, is that you can be like Jesus and realize that we all got some mess, that we all need Jesus, that you can remember that family matters. Stand and let's worship.
Here is my alabaster poured out in worship. Some say it's too expensive. I say it's not enough. How could I give too much? Let it be costly. Let it be costly. You are most worthy. Most worthy. Holding back nothing. Let it mean something. You are most worthy. Most worthy, Jesus. I've counted all my reasons, they just keep adding up. I can't afford to hold back the sum of all my love. Some say it's too expensive, I say it's not enough. How could I give too much? How could I give too much? Let it be costly. Let it be costly. You are most worthy. Most worthy. Holding back nothing. Let it mean something. You are most worthy, most worthy. Let it be costly, let it be costly. You are most worthy, most worthy. Holding back nothing. Let it mean something. You are most worthy, most worthy. For all I bring, it can't compare to all you've given me. I will not bring what costs me nothing. Counting the cost, and I'm convinced you're still worth everything. I will not bring what costs me nothing. For all I bring, it can't compare to all you've given me. I will not bring what costs me nothing. Counting the cost, and I'm convinced you're still worth everything. I will not bring what costs me nothing. For all I bring, I can't compare to all you've given me. I will not bring what costs me nothing. Counting the cost, and I'm convinced you're still worth everything. I will not bring what costs me nothing. For all I bring, it can't compare to all you've given me. I will not bring what costs me nothing. Counting the cost, and I'm convinced you're still worth everything. I will not bring what costs me nothing. Let it be costly. Let it be costly. You are most worthy, most worthy. Holding back nothing. Let it mean something. You are most worthy.
So, man, here we are, Thanksgiving season. We're all going to stand around the table and sit around the table, and hopefully no one is by themselves. But we're all going to have this mindset of what we're thankful for. I remember there was this old song, and it used to have this like refrain, I guess is what you would call it, where it just said, "Thank you for the cross. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for the cross, my friend." We sung it at this camp I used to work at. We sang it quite often. And I'll never forget at camp, there was this kid, and I was like, I tried to be like the cool camp counselor, and I had these kids that would be like, vote Vince for president and all this other crazy stuff. I don't know how to be president. I mean, no. I don't know how to get rid of taxes. I don't know what you do. But I'll never forget, we had camp, and we sung that song. And this kid, he came down to camp with these other kids, and they came from like this low-income housing area. And I'll never forget, he came up to me, and he said, "Hey, Vince, can I talk to you about something?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Man, how can Jesus love me?" He was like, "I can't afford anything. My family's poor. I'm broke. I'm this, I'm that." And I'll never forget the conversation that we had. It was at that camp, that kid gave his life to Christ, and I wish I still talked to him. I wish I could keep in touch with him to see where he is today. There was a kid, his name was D, and I'll never forget, we did this vacation Bible school. And him and his brother used to come to this vacation Bible school, and D is sort of kind of out there in the world. But I saw his brother Christian, and his brother Christian, he actually plays football, a real stout fella. He used to be real small. He's like that little kid you walk up to, you push. Like Kim Baco's made him look tall. He was that small. But I'll never forget, I was like, this kid was so quiet. He wouldn't say anything. He would goof off a little bit. But I was at Willie's, and he came up, and he got behind me like, "Hey, how you doing, man? You remember me?" And I was about to karate chop him in the throat because he touched me on my lower part of my back. And I was like, first of all, don't do that. Second of all, I feel like I'm in prison. Don't do that. And we began to conversate, and I remember talking to him about his life, and I remember his past. You see, he grew up in his house where he basically raised himself, and where like his dad, he didn't know where his dad was or anything. And his life was really rough. As a matter of fact, I don't even think he was living at home at that moment in time. And the thing is like the reality for some of us, when we stop, if we were to stop and look at his life, it would look like that. You see, it's easy when someone walks in and they say, "Man, I stumbled on this church. I came to this church because I saw it on Google." We're like, "Yeah, it's working. People are coming." And it's cool when people come to our church and they raise their hand during the altar call. But here's the thing. Can I tell you something? That there's people that will walk in this church, people that have walked in this church, people that may be in this church today that may not feel like they're worth anything to Christ because their life looks like this. And here's the crazy thing. If you stop and you study the scripture, when their life looks like this, Christ expects for our hands to look like this. We're supposed to get down in the mud with them. We're supposed to get down in the dirt with them. Because, see, there's a Christian that's going to walk into this church one day, and we're going to be the only hope that they have, that life is not all bad. And they're going to come back and they're going to say, "Hey, you remember that time that you said to me that God loves me? It spoke something into my life." But if we're too worried about what our hands look like, if we're too worried about how dirty we're going to get because of other people's mess, then we're missing opportunities to invite people to the table where Christ can feed them. North, listen to me. If they come hungry, we got to feed them. If they come dirty, we got to feed them. If they come hopeless, we got to feed them. If they come from a horrible past and it looks like God can't do it, guess what? We got to feed them. If they've been to the table a million times and they're coming back saying, "I need some more," guess what? We got to feed them. Why? Because they're part of the family. Lord, church, my hope and my prayer this Thanksgiving season is this: that you don't look at people's sins, but you look at the hope that can be brought to their life through Christ and Him alone. No matter where they are from, no matter what they look like, that you will always say, "You're welcome to the table. You're welcome to the table." This morning, with every head bowed and every eye closed, North, I want to ask you a question this morning. Maybe you're here this morning, and maybe it's been a long time since you've been at the table. Maybe it's been some time. Maybe you were at the table, then you left the table, then you came back to the table, then you left the table, then you came back again. Maybe that's who you are. And you're like, okay, they're going to start looking at me because I can't get my stuff together. Maybe your life looks like the bucket full of mud and muck and nastiness. Or maybe your life looks like the bucket before the mud got added and the dirt got added. Maybe that's your life. I don't know what your life looks like, but I do know this. I do know that Christ, he wants to feed you. He wants to make you whole. He wants to invite you to the table. So this morning, every head bow, every eye closed, maybe you're here, and maybe this morning when I said thank you for the cross, maybe you want that to be your prayer this morning. Maybe you're like, God, I'm hungry, but I thank you for the cross. Could you fill me up? He absolutely can. The Bible tells me that the reason why I feel so empty is because I'm a sinner. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But see, here's where the hope is. Here's where the invite is. It says that Christ came down and he lived a perfect life and he died a sinner's death. And if I confess with my mouth and I believe in my heart, John 3:16, that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. If I confess and believe that, then I'll have that everlasting life. I'll feel full. I'll find my family. I'll find my hope. I'll find Jesus. This morning, if that's you and you're here this morning, you're like, Vince, I don't want to go another day without sitting at the table and being fed by my daddy. I want you to do me a favor. Nobody looking around, lift your hand up as high as you possibly can. I see you. This morning, we're going to say this prayer. We're going to say it together as a family, and I want us to shout it from the rooftops this morning. I want us to say it like we've never said it before. People are getting full today. God is filling some spirits this morning, and lives are being changed. So let's say this with me. Say this with me. Say, Father God, I'm a sinner, and I need a Savior. Make room for me at your table. I know I'm not the cleanest, but what I have, I give to you. I believe you sent your son to live a perfect life and die for me, a sinner. But I also know you can forgive me of those sins, make me whole again. So do that right now. My life is yours. Use it for your glory. Use it for your will. Use me to change the world. Amen. Let's give it up for those people that said that prayer this morning. Man, God is so good, brother. Listen up, North Church. I want to remind you of something. God loves you in spite of you. He does. Listen, you're going to come back to this table hungry and wanting and needing. Y'all can sit down for a minute. You're going to come back to this table and you're going to be this person again. And you're going to be like, okay, God, I know it's been a minute, but I need a touch from you. And guess what? Every single time he's going to make room for you. You don't understand, Vince. My life, I know last time you saw me, I wasn't as dirty. It don't matter. He's still going to make room for you because he loves you that much. So this holiday season, this Thanksgiving season, if I can give you one thing to take home with you, it's this. Jesus loves you. He loves you beyond your failures. He loves you beyond your mistakes. He loves you beyond yourself. Embrace that and run with it. But don't just hold on to it. Tell the world that there's a God up in heaven that loves them more than their worst time in their life. And he wants so much better for them. Let's pray. Father God, I pray this holiday season, this Thanksgiving season, as we sit around the table with our family, that we never forget that you call us sons and daughters, that you love us in spite of us. And God, I pray that we can take that same hope, that same love, that same joy, that same peace, and that we can offer it to the world and let the world know that there's a God up in heaven that loves them. He loves them in spite of them, in spite of their failures, in spite of their flaws. He loves them. And as the world sees us, I pray that they see you. God, I thank you for my family, not the congregation, not just the people, but for my family. And as we go out into this world and give the world Jesus, I pray that they will take it and that they will use what we say to them to change their lives so that they can change this world. In your personal name, and all God's children said, amen. Real quick, this Wednesday, we are not having Bible study. There's no Bible study this Wednesday. So if you plan on joining us this Wednesday, you can, but you'll be all by yourself. So enjoy your family this Wednesday. If you are new to North, know that we are very family-oriented. We believe your first ministry is your family. And this is the perfect time where some of you, this may be the only time that you have time to spend with your family because you're so busy. And we don't want to take that opportunity away. So spend time with your family. Not on Facebook, not on TikTok, not on Instagram, family. Spend that time with your family. And if you need to talk to somebody about Jesus, talk to Quentin. No, I'm just kidding. You call me. But you call Quentin too. But that's first thing. Second thing is students. We are not having students tonight. We're going to have our craft party. And then immediately following the craft party, we were going to do ultimate dodgeball. But I think due to the circumstances of the last youth night, we might want to wait till we can, get that window fixed. We ain't going to talk about it. But so we're not having students tonight, but immediately following this, we are going to have the craft party. Students hang out. Let's help these little kids paint some rocks. We have spaghetti for you guys that we're going to feed you guys. Next weekend, 26, we are not having students. We want to encourage you to spend time with your family and just hang out and do all that good stuff. The following Wednesday, I'll be doing the Wednesday night Bible study. I hope that you can join me. Nothing is worse than talking to yourself on Facebook. Nothing is worse than doing that. So please join me on that Wednesday night. If you're new to our church, if this is your first time visiting us, we want you to do us a favor. We want you to text the word FAM to this number, 470-444-4740. And we want to send you out just to how did you enjoy the service and how can we connect and help you as you go through your journey in this thing called life. So if that's you, if the first time visiting, text the word FAM to 470-444-4740. Quick update on the children's room. If you have not went back there and seen it, go back there and see it. This upcoming couple weeks, we're going to be installing carpet. We are going to be installing LVP. We're going to be installing sinks and all that good stuff back there. If you want to help with any of that, if you know how to do it, you're more than welcome to get with Rena, and then she'll get you a date where you can come and help out. We are giving ourselves a deadline. This upcoming Sunday is Family Sunday. Here's our deadline. The following Sunday, the first Sunday in the month of December, we're going to say children will be in that room. Come hell or high water. That's something to clap about. That's something to clap about. Your children may not be having like plumbing back there, but we got a pipe and it. No, I'm just kidding. But so we're going to have our children's service back there. That will be our first children's service, and we're going to celebrate with those guys. If you are interested in decorating the church, get with Abigail. Like I did that? She didn't even know. She's like, what? Get with Abigail, because she likes Christmas. I don't care about, I love Christmas, but I don't care about decorations. So get with somebody that cares about the decorations, all right? If you are interested in helping out with Pictures with Santa, you say, I'm good at planning, all this kind of stuff, do me a solid. Hang out for 3 minutes. That's all I need. We're not planning today. I just need a list of people that say, I'm willing to help out with Christmas Pictures with Santa and willing to help out with the church Christmas party. They won't be at the same time. If you're willing to help out with that, hang out for just 3 minutes after church. That's all I need. As a matter of fact, we're not even going to meet in here because people stand in here and talk, and I don't want to interrupt that. We're going to go back to my office. If you say, I can help, meet me back in my office. Amy's not here, and since you're not here, Amy, I'm volunteering her to actually do it this year along with us. So, but stick around 3 minutes. That's all I need. Students, although we're not having students, please send me your order forms for your popcorn. If you have sold anything, I don't need the cash right now. It's imperative that I get your order form, whether it be the physical copy or a picture of it. If you guys would like to order popcorn from our students today, popcorn or anything, today will be the very last day. So get with our students. Let's support them and all that they're doing. Last but not least, here's a moment where you can really dive deep into service. I hate to say giving, but that's what it is. But I get it. Let's just be frank with one another. It's the holiday season. Here's that moment in time where we're going to buy a bunch of stuff that we probably really don't need and really don't want, but we're going to buy it because that's what we do. I remember there was a time when my family was going through something. And a brother of mine called, and he has a ministry. He said, Vince, I've got $5,000 extra that I want to give to somebody. And I want you to take it, and I want you to bless families with it. And I took the $5,000 and I was buying gifts for different families. And I remember there was a purchase that we made, and it was $3,000. I paid for everything with cash because I didn't want anything coming out of my bank account. I didn't want to be associated with it. And all of a sudden, and in total it was over $3,000. I went back to my car, I counted the money, and I still had over $3,000 left. Because God, he kept, it's like, and I remember saying this. I remember standing on this platform and saying, I can't get rid of this money. And I'll never forget, I remember just thinking, I'm going to give, even though we had just had a wreck, and we were not really able to afford anything because I had to decide between Christmas gifts and bills. And it was at this church where Sandra said, Vince, I'm not going to ask you, I'm just going to do it. And I was like, you're not going to ask me what, you're just going to do what? And that Sunday, they took up an offering. And the church provided Christmas for my family that year without even knowing it. Can I tell you that when you give something that's bigger than this building? I know that the money goes towards the lights and it goes towards make sure the heat or the air is working and all these things, but it's so much bigger than that. Because that one year was one of the hardest years of our life. But when I walked into this building and people within this church just said, we want to bless you. And then somebody else came to my house and said, I want to give you a Christmas gift. And they gave me an envelope. And I sat over to the side and they said, did you look in that envelope? And I said, no, it's actually at my print shop. And they said, you need to go get that envelope. And I opened it and it was $1,000 in there. And I was like, God, what are you doing? And he reminded me that when you're faithful to me, guess what? I'm faithful to you. And this morning, I want to remind you, if you're faithful to God, he's faithful to you. Here's what I'm not going to ask you to do. Don't overextend yourself. Don't get your lights and your water cut off because you gave to North Church. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to give out of conviction, not just out of convenience. I'm asking you, instead of saying, you know what, today I'm going to go to that Mexican restaurant, I'm asking you to say, hey, you know what, there may come a time where it's not Pastor Vince, but it's somebody else that may need a touch from this church, and I want to be there to help give. So here's your opportunity. This is what we call extended moment of worship, because worship in church is a moment where you pour into people's lives. And you may never know the person's life that you pour into, but know that when you pour into North, we're pouring into this community. We're pouring into the people outside of this community. We're giving them Jesus. So this morning, do me a solid. Give out of conviction, knowing that God is going to use you to change somebody's life, not out of convenience. We got 3 ways to give. You can give online at northchurchrockmart.com. You can give through the Givelify app. That's Givelify. Or you can drop it up here in these offering plates. But listen, if you cannot give, God's going to bless you. I know he will. If you can give, give. There's no obligation. Because regardless if 1 million people give this morning, if 1 million people give $1, I'm okay with that. That would be great. Or if no one gives, God's going to still provide, amen? Come on, amen? Let's pray. Father God, as we give and as we're dismissed this morning, God, I pray that you use every quarter, nickel, dime, and penny for your glory. I pray that as we go about our ways and as we celebrate this Thanksgiving season, God, I pray, God, that we never forget the cross that saved our life, your son that lived a perfect life and died on a sinner's cross for me, for the rest of my family. So, God, this holiday season, we're thankful for our cousins and our aunts and our uncles and our parents and whatever else. And God, we're thankful for the turkey and the ham and the yams and everything else that's going to be there. But God, I pray this holiday season that we never forget the cross, that we never forget your son, that we never lose a heart of thankfulness for the life that we have because of the life that he gave. In your precious holy name, amen. If you're willing to help Christmas stuff, I'll be back in my office.